Thank you for inviting me here to share the experiences which are a little bit different compared to, for example, Vilnius, as we don't have any university press departments. You'll notice immediately that we much more in mind of guerrilla publishing than some established publishing enterprise. We are a very small university, and we are periphery of Croatian periphery. So not just Miha European periphery, as you mentioned, for our, I hope, 3 countries or 2 countries, whatever you consider to be European periphery. It's much more, okay. But we are really at the periphery of what's going on in Croatia as well. So I like to say a few things about the ambient of publishing in Croatia, about some general figures. Then I would like to say a little bit more about subsidies to publishing. As I don't know how is it in your countries, but in Croatia almost all the academic publishing is supply model publishing. So in fact you don't sell academic books. You publish academic books if you already have some budget to produce them. And then few words about the publishing at the University of Osijek, and a little bit more about the publishing at the faculties of humanities and social sciences. I noticed it, and it seems quite interesting to me. We are all in fact faculties of philosophy, Filozofska fakulteta, and we are also Filozofski fakultet in Osijek, but you opted for the faculty of arts, and we in Croatia all opted for the faculties of humanities and social sciences. I don't know why did they decide to. Your
translation is more understandable than ours.
Okay, o to potom. So from the bibliographical office of the National Library of Croatia, we received the data about Croatian book production in last 10 years. So here you see the general book output. It's not big, but it's not small. It's about 7,000 titles we publish every year. You can see that we have a small number of first editions, but the reprints are making really the so the backend is making really the biggest number of publishing. When we compare original language, then you also see that almost the half of our productions are translations, and half is coming from the original Croatian. And last, what I have is I call it publishing quilts, because we don't have exactly the categories. We receive the data how many textbooks are published, how many literature. So here are the textbook, here is the literature, and then the other. So we would be interested in the other, as academic books belong to the other. And there is a promise that we have detailed categorization of the complete output in 1 year perhaps, and it's also a problem for us who are doing publishing research, because if you want data such this, there's still not there is no any database in Croatia with such a data, so you really have to write a letter to a guy in a bibliographical department and ask him, oh my friend, you know, I'm traveling to the conference, would you be so nice and send me the data about and of course they're going to send the data, but you know when someone from abroad is doing a research and is interesting in, as you ask, for Lithuania, yeah, of course, in total book output, then such data should be. I'm not criticizing. I'm just thinking aloud. Okay. So the next one is perhaps usual, but a little bit shocking for me. It's about subsidies. I have an amazing doctoral student from the University of Rijeka who did a very nice analysis of the numbers both Ministry of Science and Ministry of Culture in Croatia are subsidizing book production, and all the data are publicly available, but just as a number. And we did a very careful analyze who receives the subsidies, because from these data we can reconstruct who are the academic publishers. As I told you, academic publishing in Croatia is really a supply-based model. So usually the commercial publisher and also the institutional publishers would say you, if you bring the manuscript, oh, your manuscript is amazing, it's a beautiful piece of scholarship, and if we get the money, we are going to publish it. So I don't know the percentage, but I would guess, and I think that this guess is pretty much informed guess, that 90% of academic output in Croatia is subsidized. So we can make a very good general picture out of the data that we can get from this analysis. So the Ministry of Science, we have the data for 5 years here. You have the total number of subsidies, which includes both books. So here is the number of books which were published by the money of the Ministry of Science. This money is sometimes sufficient to cover all the production costs. Sometimes this is the half of production costs, you know, but this is the number of books, and this is the number of journals which are published by the subsidies. And here is the amount. It's a really big money, you know. So it's the bold is for all of you that you can compare and understand the number in euros. And I would say for 6 years, I would say it's really big money. And the model is that you apply a book, and every single book gets the money. So that's not the money which is in infrastructure, but in every single project, which I think is wrong, you know. But that's for another discussion. I did also analyze for 1 year subsidies of the Ministry of Culture in Croatia. Here are the programs. You can read them. So these are different events related to books, like book fairs. These are purchases for public libraries. Okay. Then support for literary work. So if you are an author, you can apply for your project and you'll get some money. This is, I would say, 60 euros for EPUB conversion. So if you want to convert your printed book to EPUB, the Ministry of Culture will give you 60 euros to do this. Subsidies for publishers are really subsidies for books, and here is the number of programs and titles. Bookseller events, like presentation of books, like some smaller book fairs, and translations. So if there is a book published in Croatia, and you make in Croatian language, and you make an agreement with foreign publisher, then the Ministry of Culture can support the translation into foreign language, and that's the money and number of programs. So when you add this money to the money of Ministry of Science, in 2016 we spent this money for book publishing in Croatia. So seemingly the publishing should be lucrative business in Croatia, because there's a lot of budget money, and if we divide this number with the number of books published in this year, then it seems that in Croatia budget money participated with this amount in every single book, which is good, and which just shows the general picture of publishing business in Croatia. Is it true that without public support the publishing would die in Croatia, as some of our association like to say, or it's not true? I'm not going to argue with this, but what I want to say that the publishing is a business of status in Croatia, worthy of money. And here is an average salary in Croatia, just to compare with this amount. More data about the distribution of subsidies. So, what makes lucrative publishing fields? Humanities. With the number of programs, 1,279. Social sciences. So, if someone says, and you can also, I don't know if in Lithuania or Slovenia, that all are just about, everything just about STEM, you know, because some educational policies in Croatia are really promoting STEM field in education. But when you see these numbers, then in book publishing, you know, here technical, biomedicines, natural sciences, 197 books with thematics of physics, mathematics, you know, biotechnics, arts 40 books, but there is Ministry of Culture for arts if they want, okay. And interdisciplinary sciences, you know, a growing field in Croatia, so, yeah. Who are academic publishers? So, institutions, blue are companies, and the gray are societies. Institutions meaning like universities, faculties, you know, private companies, and societies would be the society of chemical engineering or things like that. So here is for total subsidies, here is for books, and here is for journals. So you see that here private companies participate a lot when we speak about books, and we speak about journals as well, almost half-half, you know. So almost half-half is public and private enterprise. The most prolific publishers, then you see private publisher, then Croatian Academy of Arts and Sciences, then again private publisher, then Croatian Institute for History, then Faculty of Philosophy in Faculty of Humanities and Arts in Zagreb, which is the biggest among us, you know, and perhaps far away in many other things. Then a private company, which was well, my first employer. I spent there 6 years, Školska knjiga in Zagreb, and some others. When we speak top winners about books, then you have private company, then Hrvatska sveučilišna naklada, which would be Croatian academic publisher, which is a publishing company of University of Zagreb. I'll explain a little bit later about this company. Then again Školska knjiga, then public institute, Hrvatski institut za povijest. Okay, then so you see that the private companies are really getting a lot of public money to publish academic books. Okay. And top winners regarding journal, then we have a different story. Mostly educational institutions are engaged in this part of academic publishing in Croatia. And where are academic publishers in Croatia? Again, someone from Maribor is here, if I've noticed. So this is Zagreb. This is Zagreb, and here are we. Here is my home university in Osijek, you know. I live in Zagreb, but I teach in Osijek, so I have a very, very good overview and knowledge about, and I also am in excellent connections with colleagues in Rijeka and in Zadar. I know what they are doing, you know, but that's the concentration of publishers, you know, like London Grub Street or something like this a few centuries ago. So all the and Stationers Company, who I think had this rule that all the publishers should be concentrated in one or two streets of London. So now we have the same situation in Croatia, that everything is really concentrated, which is normal because that's publishing business. You know, publishing business goes where people are or where urbanization is, and when. Okay. So. when we look at the structure of academic publishing companies in Croatia, as you noticed from this analysis, we have academic and scientific organizations like universities, faculties, and so on. We have some public institutions with special status, like Croatian Academy of Arts and Sciences, Lexicographic Institute, and Matica Hrvatska, which are all... Should I? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I have this habit to walk along. I'm sorry. Yeah. Which are institutions of special status paid to do the research and to publish the research. And as I mentioned, Croatian University Press, which was established in 1992 as a publishing house of the University of Zagreb, but it's rather fully independent. It has a director, and there is a sort of advisory board of university professors, but they are really sort of advisors. Company is fully independent in decisions. They publish some 40 books per year, and later I mentioned our principle is looking for strategical partners, and book about publishing, Inside the Book Publishing, written by Angus, was published in co-publishing of my university and Hrvatska sveučilišna naklada. Okay. Heritage institutions and commercial private publishers like Školska knjiga, Naklada Ljevak, and many others. And as I told at the beginning, I would estimate, perhaps I'm wrong, but I would roughly estimate that almost 90% is of academic books in Croatia, and academic journals, of course, is published following this supplied side model of publishing. Okay, that's the very general picture. Now, a few words about publishing at my university, University of Osijek. There are 17 departments of the university. Formally, we have a publishing committee. This publishing committee should make a publishing plan for every year. It should approve proposals for textbooks and other, and it should prepare reports and evaluation. In reality, they don't do this job. So in reality, it should be the next step. All this, what is written here, is done at the faculties, so there is no any. What is obligatory is, if you have university textbook, to send it to the committee for the approval, but it goes automatically. Another problem is concerned again about data analysis. The last report I have is already 3 years old, and it consists of incomplete data because it's not true that only 6 books are published this year. So this report is compiled out of available data for rector's office, and they didn't receive data for these guys here. Why I'm telling this? Because as I told at the beginning, we are a little bit guerrilla publishing, and no one is considering publishing a serious activity, which really deserves some efforts. What is good that I think last year there is a new database of all the not of all, but the database that should incorporate all the publications from the university, but it's in the process of building. If I understood you well, these publications will be available later on. Okay, so then I'm not going to open anything. The links are here, and you can access it and check it later on. So if we just see who are the most active faculties, the red one is my faculty, so the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences. Regarding regarding grants of the Ministry of Science, so we always apply with the hugest number of title. How it looks at my university, we also have publishing committee. I'm the head of the publishing committee, but we are really committee consisted of professors. So we are not even paid for this job, you know. We are doing it as a something for our faculty. Yeah. For good, I don't know for what. Okay. In 2012, we published new directives and guidelines for publishing, and the only thing we wanted is to introduce some standardized procedures and documentation for publishing, you know, and then organization, and again organization is what we are doing. What we are doing right now, and I think that's the basic principle. To do it in a better way, we insisted on strategic partnerships, in fact. So we ask companies who are able to do job for us. We do a lot of co-publications with Croatian commercial publishers and other academic publishers because it's much easier. Then they do distributions for us because Arunjas was speaking about marketing and distribution. We are not doing marketing and distribution because there is no one who should do marketing and distribution. We are doing production. We are organizing production, and in fact that's all. Okay, well, what would be academic publishing at my universities? The very simple definition would be that it's service for employees. No one would come to us and pay £5,000 to publish a book. So we don't have this social status of UCL. To ask for such money. What we publish, our core publications are of course academic monographs and university textbooks, then academic journals, but they all have their independent boards. We offer production assistance to them. Other things are important for the university and for the faculty. That's something that will always be at the publishing activities of the universities. No one else is going to do this. So different proceedings, program guides and things. And I'll explain later on what I consider under the short-run digital print of the university. And for students, we publish some of their journals, we publish some of their monographs. There is a beautiful monograph students completely produced on 100 years of big war. And it's so serious, it's so nice. They were very satisfied. So that's also something that no one would do except us, you know. So promoting student activities, I consider would be also important part. I don't have organizational structure, but I wanted to show you publishing chain. How do we publish? So, as I told you, we introduce new guidelines and directives. So we accept manuscripts till November. Together with manuscripts, we ask authors to propose reviewers. To submit a statement that the manuscript is completed. So no, like in any company. And we also ask the statement on copyright clearance. We prepare all this for the council meeting, this big council meeting every university has and faculty has of the university. And only council accept publishing plan together with the reviewers. And only after that we do peer review. So that's this exclamation mark, because in normal publishing chain you would do review at the very beginning before deciding whether you are going to include it in a publishing plan or not. Then we do corrections and so on, and in May we apply for the subsidy. Okay, then we wait for the subsidy. Decision goes in October, payment goes in December, January, and then we go to production. Of course, always a strategic partner. What do we do when the books are printed? We store it in a room, simple room at our university. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. We have a beautiful room which is like 20 square meters, full of books. You know, when you get there, then it's an empire of all books, unsold books. So stockroom at FFOS, we do direct sale. We do direct sale when professor sends his student to buy a book. Then we do direct sale, of course. But we also use our partners to sell books for us, and that's the only way to sell books we produce. Sometimes, if it's urgent case, then we don't apply, but we go to production on our own costs. Who is paying? As I told you, we really try to produce academic monographs and university textbooks by public money, but university is. Not university, my faculty is willing to pay. For example, if there is an urgent case of tenure and professor needs monograph, then we do something that I called instant short-run digital press publishing, you know. So we would publish a book in less than a month, and we would publish 10 copies. And we would pay for this, just to make a sort of one of the very important moments in publishing at my university is building trust. You know, so it's extremely important to show to professors that we can do it better for them. So that's I think Arunjas, what you also are doing with these Christmas cards. So we are here. We know how to do the job, you know, and we will help you to do this job. What you've done is just in front of us. I'm also thinking. You are good spirit of the academic publishing here, but I'm also thinking, you know, that perhaps in 2 or 4 years we'll have also vice rector or rector who is going to understand, you know, that it is good for the university, for the visibility, for the ranking of university. It's good. You know, it's good. It's almost necessary to put it on bigger level. We pay everything for our students because that's part. And we give them a lot of editorial freedom, and they feel good, and it's worthy. You know, when you see them happy, feeling good, having their own publication in hands, it's worthy. Whatever is of special interest for institution, and if there are any other urgent cases, then we also do this publishing. Digital challenge. We completely modify workflow so that every production could go to print and online as well. We do digitization of all publications at the university. That's student work, so they do it as a part of their teaching. We are building a new platform for open access monographs, but students are building this platform, you know, also as a part of their engagement, and in fact, it's not sure that it's going to work, you know, but we have alternatives, you know. And I have to mention 2 such platforms which are really miles ahead of us. I mentioned Faculty of Humanities and Social Science in Zagreb. They have such a platform. It's headed by the library. Am I right? I think it's headed by the library. Okay. And University of Zadar, our friends from the University of Zadar have more press, which is the press of the seas. And they are also publishing everything in open access, journals and monographs, a very nice project. But it was developed by the Department of Information Sciences, and now it's run by the publishing committee at the university. We all use OJS, and we have this famous Hrčak, where our journal articles are available online, but it's not publishing tool. It's a repository. Once when you publish, you store it in Hrčak. Yeah. The last thing I want to mention is that we have Master in Publishing at the university, which is now 4 years old. Here is the structure of publishing program. Why I'm mentioning this one? Because we really try to give students as much work as possible, you know. So whatever we do in publishing at our university, I've mentioned inside book publishing, which is classical textbooks in publishing all around the world. The author is here, and Angus remembers the process. I have students who combine publishing and English language translation. So they did translation. We were on hotline with Angus, you know, what means, I don't know what was the problem with terminology. They were the editors, and they blew up the job. Of course, you know, it was completely this. But that was the sense, you know. If you have to make mistake, now make mistake during the study program. We'll correct the mistake. We'll show you how to do this, and that was amazing experience. They also do publishing job in some local and national institutions. They have their own publishing projects. So to make a quick conclusion. Publishing is in the process of development. We know what to do. We need a much more goodwill from the university management. And meanwhile, we are trying to make our students good publishers in the future. Here are just the sources for few data I presented here. Thanks again for giving me an opportunity to share our small experiences with such distinguished.
Thank you. And again, we have time for one question.
Recreatia.
Okay, I come from Croatia, from University of Zagreb and Faculty of Humanities. And one thing I wanted to ask you about is peer review process with books. Because one thing that we are facing now, one of the main challenges, is when we want to get our books, and I guess it is the similar with your institution, and in Slovenia maybe, when we want to get them more visible in the European context, one of the main requirements is to get this process of peer review very standardized and described in details. Of course, all our books are peer-reviewed, but this process is not really as standardized as with journals, especially for conference proceedings and edited books. So do you think to do something about that, to standardize that, and also what are your, where do you go from there?
Yeah, okay. I can answer you using this one. Yeah, you're completely right. Regarding journals, everything is clear right now. We have standardized procedures, and we are part of European research area. But there are few reasons for review in Croatia. Very important reason is if you want to get the subsidy from the Ministry of Science, you need 2 reviews. And many academic books are reviewed only because of the subsidy. In practice, the author is going to ask 2 friends to make a review for him, which is okay, which is good, you know. If the author is serious guy, if the reviewers are serious guys, if they know what they are doing, you know, then it could be good, you know. But not all the people are good willing, you know, and sometimes really you can publish very badly written texts according to this. I think that in fact the review process was always process of evaluation in publishing, you know. The publisher is investing perhaps not money if there is a subsidy, but again some money, some time, and a reasonable publisher is not going to invest time and money in bad manuscripts. So the review is needed for a publisher when we speak about book. But when we speak about conference proceedings, when we speak all about this gray zone, if I may call it, if you agree with me, gray zone publishing, and we are all professors, we are all waiting for our tenure, you know, and you know, so many of suspicious proceedings are in Web of Science, you know, and you're really doing hard to publish a good article, and then you see that it's possible to have a proceeding, 5 pages proceeding, and that it's A1, you know, and it's bring a lot of points if you want to be a university professor. Yeah, then it's a little bit disappointing. The only solution I see is standards, guidelines, ethical standards and guidelines, which would be common for the European research area. But you know, then all the private companies who are publishing databases should be also willing to employ such standards.
Thank you. So we will stop.
I wish only to add something. Last year, our University of Maribor signed with University of Split the university agreement on publishing activities, and concrete agreement with Faculty of Law of University of Split. Until now, we have published 2 scientific books for University of Split. And my suggestion is that we, in the near future, think about it perhaps on some common publishing open access platform. For this region, we have many advantages. We understand each other, we know each other because of our past history, relationships. So let's think about it.
Just one
You
sentence.
want? Yeah.
Just one sentence of the record. I think that we are all too small to have our particular publishing enterprises, you know. So I completely agree. I would be very happy that we have a joint publishing enterprise, for example, of all universities in Croatia. But then again, for ranking, the university needs visibility on their own pages, you know. So, a lot of strategic interest. But yeah, that's exactly what Miha and me and the Runjas and a lot of our colleagues from Central and if we are Central Europe, I hope we are, and East Europe, whatever you want. What we are discussing for last 5 or 10 years, we have some joint projects. We really are thinking that it would be much better and much more fruitful to work together in all senses. Yeah, we are too small to do things, you know, just one by one.
Okay, thank you, Zoran.